Star Trek TOS. Oh, it's an old series. It's a beloved series. It's got some odd places. It's got some dated stuff. And it's very much coming up in Strange New Worlds. It will be entering the TOS era probably after about 2 or 3 more years. I'm not sure, actually. But in a few more years, eventually we'll be led right up to that TOS era. So do we continue on and just count TOS as that? Do we look at like Discovery, and people keep claiming Discovery is not a part of canon, but if anything, the series that should be at least half of it retconned out of canon is Star Trek: The Original Series, and I'll tell you why. So there's 2 theories. So my first theory is that you have to watch Star Trek in order from TOS all the way through to Star Trek Strange New Worlds and Starfleet Academy, because the time travel episodes affect the timeline. I've done a video on this before. It was about the multiverse and how Star Trek Strange New Worlds pretty much said this, you have to watch it in order to make sure, because the timeline episodes change things slightly. Now, and it's proven in Strange New Worlds as well, because the Gorn are much more prominent. Kirk knows Pike much more than what's suggested in TOS. Like, there's a lot of little elements that sort of erase a lot of TNG. A lot of TOS. And TOS, being the most dated show, tends to me to feel like with TOS you're picking and choosing what you're taking from all 3 seasons. Like, for example, the final episode of TOS where a woman can't become a captain, I essentially ignore that. But I love episodes like City on the Edge of Forever and Assimilation Earth, Operation Earth, one of them. It's one of those things where TOS has sort of become, it is the keystone of which Star Trek is based, but at the same time it is also the show that has been retconned a lot. And not just that, we have things like TOS not mentioning the NX-01. It's very clear that this is the first ship named Enterprise, but then at the same time Strange New Worlds taken things and made them more prominent. So it's an interesting look when you look at these characters and you look at these shows. TOS is much more the show where you have to sort of forget parts of the canon to move on. We all want to forget Spock's brain. But it's funny because it's the one that fans, particularly older fans, want to hold on to the most. And it makes me a little bit annoyed in a way, because people talk about Star Trek Discovery and how it should be erased from canon. It's terrible, bad. But Discovery was just doing what a lot of the other shows did, which is adjust the timeline and the look and everything via production staff or via storylines or via characters and stuff like that to suit its narrative. And that's what every show has done, except Discovery and Enterprise probably did it the most for themselves. For example, Enterprise creating a whole new Enterprise, and the Borg meeting the Enterprise crew but not mentioning they're the Borg, like getting out of it in stupid ways. So do you think that TOS should be essentially, like, to me, TOS is kind of like the books. You take what you want, as long as it's not contradicted in the other series, it's right. And I think that's the way most people should look at TOS. I also think that yes, these are the definitive representations of these characters, and it's the way that they should be sort of portrayed in a way. And I do also get this, which is that actually a lot of TNG and the style and the look is based on the TOS movies. Now, I'm not saying that the TOS movies should be erased from canon, because I think that they fit in perfectly well. I think they're fine. I just think TOS has had a lot of bending and stretching, like a cat prodding, to get it to fit within the timeline as it grows bigger and as the Star Trek universe grows. And bringing William Shatner back, which is another rumor that's been going on lately. He's in his 90s. I don't know why you would do that. Kirk is dead. I will point that out every time. But I just don't get why there's a need to link things to TOS that don't need to be. Like, I would love it if everything had a consistent storyline wrapped up in a little bow. It's not going to happen. It's never happened. It's always been a bit ups and downs. But the one thing that I think actually makes this problem even bigger is the fact that newer Star Trek tends to reference itself a lot. And I don't think it needs to. An example being Discovery referencing TNG episodes, Picard obviously going full nostalgia explosion, Strange New Worlds referencing little tiny things. Strange New Worlds is probably the one that references the least, and Discovery takes big strides with storyline. But overall, I think TOS is the hardest one to sort of fit into canon. So should we erase it from canon? Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and be back soon for another video.